Good morning, sir. We are on live. Can you please switch on your video for some time? So, Jagannath, sir.
Yeah. Should I shut down the video?
Switch on the video for some time during the introduction.
Yeah. I am already on. You're not able to see me?
Yes, sir. I couldn't able to see your video. Sir, Satya, sir. Your video is on?
Yeah.
I am able to see everybody. I am able to see you also.
All three.
All three are on.
Yes, okay. But I couldn't able to see you, both of you, but we can start the session. It's fine.
Yes, please.
In audience side, it's clear with all the three. So let's start the session. So very good morning to all. It is our great pleasure to have you all for the Knowledge 4.0 webinar series. This is one of the unique initiative of our chairman, Mr. P. Sriram, the Chennai Institute of Technology. A successful first generation entrepreneur, a well-known industrialist, and managing director of MK Group of Companies. Under Knowledge 4.0, we have been conducting series of webinars such as technical webinars, research webinars, career counseling webinars, and innovation webinar. Today, we have a technical workshop webinar on Industry 4.0, and we have two eminent personalities from the great company OEM, Mr. Jagannath V. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
And Mr. Satya Narayanan. I welcome you, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, Mr. Jagannath V is the business head of M2 Next Solution. It's a BFW subsidiary, and Mr. Satya Narayana is heading the marketing division of BFW. So Chennai Institute of Technology was established in 2010 by our Honorable Chairman, Mr. P. Sriram. Now our institute is being within top 10 institutes among private engineering colleges in Tamil Nadu. To say a few words about the guest of today, Mr. Jagannath V is the business head of M2 Next Solution, a BFW subsidiary, Bangalore, and he graduated in 1990 from Bangalore University in the Department of Electrical and Electronics, and he is a senior management professional with 30 years of experience in catering to machine tool builders, auto OEMs, auto ancillary manufacturers, robot integrators, VMC turnkey, plastic manufacturers including mobile phones, medical industry, and tool rooms with wire cut EDMs. Industry 4.0 integrated over 2,000 CNC machines in the last 2 years with successful installations up to enterprise level. Robotic automation projects including machine tools, L-bar UL welding, furnace, ladling, die-cast extraction, two-wheeler style painting, tire handling, electronic PCB automation, and so on. AGV design development, 3D printing, polyjet and metals also the part of his profile. And his domain and product experience includes a very big list. I want to share it with you. A computer numerical controller so-called CNC, servo motors and spindle motors, amplifiers, linear motors, PLCs, HMI customization, interface of switching devices, field bus protocols, Industry 4.0 with data acquisition analysis, reporting and productivity refinement on metal cutting and metal forming, artificial intelligence on thermal behavior of counter cutting, CE and UL standards, application on machine tools, and deep application understanding on lathe, turn mills, VMC, HMCs, grinding, cylindrical and surface, gear hobbing, laser CO2 and fiber optic applications, exceptional understanding of machine tool industry, industrial robotic application on arc welding, BIW, machine tool handling, die-cast extraction and spraying, ladling, hot and cold forge, electronic manufacturing and injection molding extraction, and so on. He has project engineering workout and viability of project automation, machine tool sales and turnkey on VMC, all electric plastic injection molding, and wire cut EDM, RoboCut. So other interests includes, he is a qualified neuropath, Dawn Therapist, Pranayama Impact and its benefits, Cosmic Healer, undergoing yoga instructor courses. Previous to joining BFW, he served as a senior vice president in Fanuc India Private Limited. It's a mixture of technical as well as life skills also. We welcome you, sir, for this wonderful occasion. And to say a few words about Mr. Satyanarayana. Satyanarayana has been with BFW in the regional head of marketing, and he, previous to joining BFW, he worked with UCAM Private Limited and Premier Limited. He has been serving with BFW almost for the past 6 years. I welcome you also, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and it's a time to head over to the guest. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So can I start the presentation?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Bala, for having a nice introduction, and thank you, Satya, for giving me an opportunity to present here. So let me quickly start getting into the presentation without not wasting much of time, and I would request Satya to mute your video so that there is good bandwidth available for everybody to view. So let me go on for my screen sharing. Hope now the screen is visible to everybody.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Yeah, it's visible. Okay, so let us start getting into the subject on Industry 4.0. So we have been doing Tech Talk, wherein in the last 1 month we have conducted over 30 seminars talking about productivity, performance, and profitability. I would request everybody to keep your mic on mute so that there is no echoing. Satya, please keep your mic on mute.
Oh, 1 second.
Just mute your mic, Satya. So let us start looking at what we are going to talk today. So for a brief introduction to BFW, one of the oldest and largest and yet most modern machine tool company. German engineering mindset with localized operation, heavy presence in aerospace, auto, die and mold, railways, defense, medical, oil and gas, and general engineering. Offers turning centers, machining centers, and turn mill centers, widest range globally. We have over 400 models, lineup available. We also have started offering factory automation products, which we are going to see today. So what is this M2 NXT, which is enabling smart manufacturing? It's a fully owned subsidiary of BFW focused on Industry 4.0 solutions, offering digital transformation, automation, additive manufacturing, and so on. So the name coined M2 NXT means any equipment on the shop floor which is producing needs to go to the next level in terms of emanating the data from there and see how do we improve the deployed efficiency of that machine or the equipment on the shop floor. So that is how we said machine to next level, which means that it is machine to next. Short form is M2 NXT. So we simply said any equipment on the shop floor, when we drive it to the next level, it becomes machine to next level. So that is how we coined the name M2 NXT, which we call it as M2 Next. So this what is this Tech Talk? Is a leadership thought platform, Tech Talk, for bringing the best of technological solutions to manufacturing fraternity, share knowledge and enable their progress, help connect with the industry thought leaders so that we can start discussing on how do we start working on this subject. So let us take a quick recap on the industrial revolution. Industry, as most of you will be knowing, but I still would like to give a larger benefit for all the audience, over 800 plus who are present here. 1.0 was purely application of application of steam power.
Sir, we have, sorry sir, we have 1098, 1103 participants.
Oh, okay. So it's one of the biggest webinar I've been attending. So 1098, it's a huge number. So thanks for all of you joining. So let us take a quick look on recap of industrial revolution. Industry 1.0 is mechanization typically, and applying steam power for weaving looms. Steam and water power were used to mechanize production in the year 1784. You can see a geared wheel, which shows that, this is what is the mechanization symbol. The Industry 2.0 revolution was in 1870, where electricity was the application, allowed mass production with the assembly lines with electrical energy. Industry 3.0, which came up later in the year 1969, was typically about automation, computers, electronics, which means IT, computer, electronics, PLC, CNC, robotics in standalone mode for production. So you can see an electronic chip symbol, which was in 1969, wherein a lot of technological changes happened, but they were all working independently in their own perspective. Now, in the year 2011-2012, Industry 4.0 was coined by German fraternity, which is nothing but enhancing automation through data connectivity. So all the devices which were developed and launched in 3.0 were essentially getting connected to each other, so that it started giving the data in synchronism, so that the productivity enhancement also happened through data analytics. And as a result, artificial intelligence and ML started evolving. So you can see the Wi-Fi symbol, which is simply means that every device need to emanate its presence in the shop floor or presents its presence under a factory to show that what exactly is its deployed efficiency. So then when you take the data and start analyzing, you will start realizing that the lean manufacturing as a result of synchronism, connectivity between each other. So now let us look at what kind of portfolio M2 Next has got. Primarily, M2 Next revolves around Industry 4.0. So we have three verticals. The first vertical is factory automation, second vertical is process engineering, third vertical is additive manufacturing. Now the verticals which are going to be in M2 Next are evolving with respect to Industry 4.0 technology. So we have a justification why these verticals exist here and how are they contributing in Industry 4.0. Now, first, let us look at factory automation, which has two subdivisions. The first subdivision is virtual automation, wherein we just capture the data and analyze the data of every element, every equipment which is sitting in the shop floor. The second, so as a result, what we do is we get to know what exactly is the contribution of this equipment in the shop floor for the throughput or the output from that shop or from that cell or from that line. And one can clearly analyze what is available capability of this device, and whether is it a critical device or not, critical machine or not, critical object or not, we can look at it. Now the physical automation subdivision comes into picture. The moment we acquire the data and analyze, we start finding out the bottleneck machine becomes the crucial equipment on the shop floor, wherein the entire output depends on that bottleneck equipment. So once we acquire the data, analyze and see that there is certain champion output which can be produced from that machine, resulting to a physical automation and not depending on the operator or the human to produce the component becomes more and more prominent in the current situation. So one would resort to physical automation of those critical equipment to see that there is a sustained output in the shop floor based on the data what we have acquired and analyzed, and hence we map the champion output from there to implement physical automation so that the factory output is sustained, so that you start delivering the number of components or the number of finished goods in a sustained manner. Now the moment you do this, then to increase the productivity, the very simple means is to increase the equipment. But when you look at process engineering, which means that if you start looking at optimizing the process in the existing machine without adding a new machine, the output can be increased on that bottleneck machine. So what we have also included is process re-engineering, which will simply enable better output from the existing equipment by modifying the metal cutting process or metal forming process or whatever is the process on that machine. So typically by handling the work holding like the fixture and the tooling which is used for metal cutting process. So we modify the engineering itself by reworking on the fixture and tooling to make the existing equipment deliver better output in the shop floor, which as a result will give you better throughput for the existing equipment, which justifies the Industry 4.0 initiative. Now, when we are doing this, what is additive manufacturing? Why is it coming into picture? Is the current Substitution manufacturing mechanisms are getting through additive, wherein we have two broad subdivisions. One is the industrial polymer, and second is the metal. So here there are many aged equipment where the spare parts, the inventory, the jig and fixture, the workflow, the material movement, all these things have to be fabricated and manufactured, and which justify the requirement on the shop floor. So additive becomes more and more prominent, where it is easier to not only run the given shop floor with the jig and fixture, but also to evolve and refine your design by resorting into additive manufacturing, where you do the prototype. After the prototyping is done, the traditional manufacturing, if it is attractive, one would go for traditional manufacturing without having to do the entire prototype design and development in traditional manufacturing, which is very expensive and time consuming. So let us start looking at one by one on this subject. Now, before going there, if we look at what is the deliverable capability of M2 Next, you need to have a good team here. So we have a committed team of 50 qualified professionals, qualified and experienced professionals in the field of IoT, hardware, software, data analytics, robotics, gantry, assembly, automation, and AGV. We are continuously training them on the latest technologies in all the above fields. We also have professionals for design of automation system, fixture and tooling, IoT solutions, and 3D printing. We also have design software like SolidWorks and AutoCAD. We have a robot simulation software, which is nothing but Robot Studio and MotoSim. We also have a dedicated project management and execution team consisting of experts for robot, AGV, PLC, IoT, fixture and tooling, 3D applications. We have a shop floor which is 2,000 square meter, where we do project integration, trials, PDI can be carried out. We also have a tool room facility with necessary machinery. So this is the team. So unless you have a team in place, it is not possible to deliver the kind of technology what we are talking. So now first let us look at virtual automation. What exactly is the offering in with respect to Industry 4.0? So we have designed and developed a device called IRIS, which is nothing but intelligent, reliable, innovative, seamless. So this is a homegrown device which we started in the year 2017 under the Government of India R&D scheme in the name of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technology Center, where we started working on hardware and software, where we have in-house designed this, which has two variants. The first variant is which is called IRIS with HMI, which is a grade IP64 compliant in the front and IP20 on the rear, which is wall mounted with every CNC machine, where it will be connected to the CNC controller with multi-touch screen of 7-inch, 10.1 inch, 15 inch and 21 inch. We have a specification of 4 GB RAM, solid state device of 32 GB, extendable up to 128 GB with dual Ethernet ports. We also have a simpler device called IRIS Mini, which is IP20 grade with specifications of 512 MB RAM, solid state device with 4 GB, dual Ethernet port. So every device of this will go with every equipment, and it will start acquiring the data from that equipment, and it will start giving reports based on the performance of that equipment. So let us look at the transactional architecture of this device. The first thing is that you can see that this device is not just a passive device like what you see in the market, which will just acquire the data and start transmitting the data. This device is an intelligent device, which is an active device. It not only acquires data, it does data processing, and then it does data transfer, which means that it's an edge computing device which does a lot of processing within its edge process while it is communicating with the CNC. So we have two versions in this device. The first version is the cloud version, and the second version is the local area network version, LAN version. So depending upon the requirement of the customer, we can host this either on the cloud or on the LAN. Now, as a result of doing edge computing, the traffic in the bandwidth and the traffic required to host this data on the cloud is very lean, because you have already done all the processing, unlike the other devices where they transfer all the data to the cloud and do cloud processing, which means you are vulnerable to open out all the data which you have acquired and transmitted, which can be a subject of risk. But whereas here, since we are doing edge computing, we only transmit the report kind of a data structure which goes into the cloud. And again, here we have 100% data integrity and data security. So what is that we are talking of data integrity is that in the eventuality, if there is a cloud bandwidth reduction or failure in the last mile or a local area network disconnectivity, the data what is being acquired by IRIS from the CNC is not lost. It holds on to the data until the cloud connectivity re-establishes, and will push the data from the point where the data was lost. So which essentially conveys that it has 100% data integrity, that no data is lost because there is a bandwidth issue or a disconnectivity problem. And since it has got 128 GB RAM, it can 128 GB memory in its intelligent device. It can continue to hold data for 6 months. So even if you have 1 or 2 days data disconnectivity, you don't have to worry about the data loss. Once you establish the data connectivity, the data will start flowing into the cloud. So this brings in 100% data integrity like a black box in an airline, where you don't lose data for whatever reason. The second requirement, the second point of data security is, since we are encrypting the data before hosting it in the cloud, which is not vulnerable for hacking. So if somebody tries to hack the data, you only get the garbage form. And we decrypt the data once it goes into the cloud. So there is 100% security achieved. So which means that it's not only integrity, it's also security. Now, same way we also follow it on the local area network. For some reason, if the wire is cut in the local area network, no worries of losing the data. Now, apart from this, we also do integration of the cloud data into the database of the existing ERP, which can be SAP, Oracle, BON, which can be any homegrown software. We can also integrate it with the MES systems. We can also integrate it with EMIS system of the existing ERP, which is running on any given shop floor. So M2 Next has the capability even to integrate these along with the existing industrial IoT architecture. Now, if we look at the handshake of this device with respect to the CNC, it not only does handshake with the CNC controller, it can also talk to the gauging station. It can talk to the sensors, which could be probably retrofitted on a later date to meet the Industry 4.0 requirement, like temperature sensor, float sensor, vibration sensor, pressure sensors, then input current data, so on and so forth. It can also talk to the robot controller, irrespective of any controller, any robot. It can handshake, like Siemens, Fanuc, Mitsubishi, KUKA, Kawasaki, Nachi, Yaskawa. Anything you talk in the world, it can get connected. And we also have an handshake with the operator, just to have some of the events on the shop floor which cannot be electronically captured because there is no sensor or intelligence with respect to the CNC machine, where the operator does a lot of activity like change, setup change, parts, waiting for parts, lubrication, waiting for consumable. A lot of events are there on the shop floor, which also can be handshaked by the operator with a simple drop-down menu, where the operator will handshake with the start and stop, wherein we capture all these events to work out the OEE, original equipment efficiency on the shop floor. And hence, working on the reduction of those events will bring in better output of the critical equipment or a non-critical equipment. And as a result, lean manufacturing is accomplished. So this is the overall architecture. Now let us look at the overview. What are all the modules which this device has got on the shop floor? The first one is the production management system. The second standard vertical is maintenance management. The third standard vertical is health monitoring. Fourth is operation management vertical. Now the fifth is a customized module, which is, we call it data analytics, which is customized to suit the needs of every organization or the institution. Now let us start looking at each one of them, what exactly we have to offer. In production management system, it has got everything to do with the production planning. So let us look at how to manage the production plan. So the planner will start making the plan based on the orders received from the sales or marketing on every equipment for every part with respect to the setup and the machine. And he will go on making the plan. You can see that in which plant, in what shift, what part, on what setup, with the machine serial number, the work order number has to be established. So like this, he will start making the plan based on the date and the shift and the number of components. And one can start looking at the plan versus production dynamically on the shop floor for a given machine, which can be dialed or which can be queried from start time to end time, where we see in a shift 2 for a work order number on 10th July from 23rd night 11:30 to morning 7:30. What was the part name and setup name, what was the target and what was the actual number which were produced, and how many were okay. In the sense that if there was an automatic gauging station connected to the machine or iris, we can also track the component quality. And what was the target cycling duration and what is the actual cycling duration of this particular machine with respect to the component can be clearly tracked. Like this, you can start tracking every machine, every shift, every part. And dynamically, you can get to know whether the production plan versus the actual production is in line with the actual desire or not. So you can also look at the live status of every machine on your remote device like a smartphone or mobile or tablet or your laptop, wherein you can not only see whether the machine is connected to the cloud and is it connected to the CNC, in what mode the machine is running, whether it is running in auto mode or manual mode. All the control releases are there, what are the alarms and what is the real-time date and time. And what all data is being accessed by the iris with respect to the CNC can be seen, wherein it shows that the live status of the machine. And here you can also dynamically look at the computation of original equipment efficiency, like what was the availability of the machine, what is the performance of the machine, and what is the quality of the machine. So, which essentially means that there were no problems on the machine, there were no consumables, which determines the availability. Performance is when the machine is running, there were no issues on the machine. So the performance availability, if it is 100%, and if the quality is 100%, based on these three parameters, you calculate the OEE of the equipment. So when you have something like 70-80% OEE, you can go back and start looking at, from the perspective of availability, performance, and quality, whether there was any shortcoming and how do we overcome that. Now, next, let us look at the quality control data. You can look at every work order number with the number of components what you have produced. You can view the quality control status with respect to the parameters, what was checked on the gauging station, what was the result of those, and whether those were very close or whether they were well within the limits can be viewed dynamically as and when you produce the component in the event that the gauging station is connected to either CNC or the iris. One can also look at the feed axis override of the CNC machine status with respect to the part and the date and the shift and the time running for the query, where sometimes what happens is the operator can run the machine with the feed axis override above 100% and hence produce the component faster. So you can start looking at those kind of traits, which shows that if it is blue, it is below 100%. If it is red, it is above 100%. And if it is green, it is exactly equal to 100%. And if it is gray, means the machine has not produced. It was a power off condition. If the machine is ready and not running and the operator has not intervened for any of the trigger, which becomes undetermined. So like this, you can start tracking the feed axis override status of the machine dynamically on a continuous basis. Now, next we come to the maintenance management module. Let us first look at MTTR and MTBF. For all of you who are not aware, MTTR is mean time to repair and MTBF is mean time between failure. So every equipment, when there is a failure, so this system will start tracking how much time the machine has run. For example, you can see here 2,337 hours, 47 minutes and 13 seconds was the runtime of the machine. It was under breakdown for 63 hours, 15 minutes and 43 seconds. And the number of breakdowns were 49 in this period. And it took 1 hour, 17 minutes, 27 seconds on an average to repair the machine, and 47 minutes, 42 seconds and 42 minutes, 47 hours, 42 minutes and 35 seconds was the mean time between failure, which means that every 47 hours there was a failure. So one can come and start looking at why there were 49 breakdowns and how many of them were chronic breakdowns in this can be evaluated. Once you evaluate this chronic breakdown, you can eliminate the chronic breakdown and make the mean time between failure longer, which essentially means that the machine is available for cutting more productivity. And if you reduce the average time to repair from 1 hour 17 minutes to say 45 minutes, you get 30 minutes on each instance. So 49 times breakdown into 30 minutes is what the productivity availability of the machine, and hence the output of the machine can be increased without having to do anything. So this will enable a logical trigger in everybody's mind to say that how do we reduce the time to repair? How do we increase the mean time between failure? How do we bring down chronic failures? And how do we, and why at all there is a failure in the first place? How do we plan to see that the machine doesn't break down? So this enables better productivity, which is nothing but MTTR and MTBF. Like this, you can start tracking every machine on the shop floor. If you have 150 machines, you can track all the 150 machines, which will show you that what kind of performance of each machine is having, whether it is an inherent problem or whether it is a maintenance problem or whether it is a running problem. One can assess easily. Next, we come to power consumption status and report. You can also track the power consumed by every machine based on the machine serial number. And if you have the input energy meter interface, you can actually compute the actual power which it is consumed. And for some reason, if your total demand keeping 150 machines, if you have asked for 500 kVA, one can look at the sigma of all the machine power consumed, and you can optimize that, overall demand, what is being requested depending upon the loading of the machine, number one. Number two, as a result, your per unit cost can be brought down in the eventuality that if there is some conservative calculation which is being done, number two. Number three is if there is any demand droppage, you can run the machine on a slower speed, which essentially means that your acceleration, deceleration, when it comes down, the peak torque and peak current will come down, and hence as a result, the average power consumed, the max power consumed by the equipment will come down. Hence, your threshold can come down, and your per unit, kilowatt hour pricing also can be revised downwards by looking at how do we reduce the power consumption on the equipment on the shop floor. Now, next we come to the consumable accountability, which I was talking, is that in the eventuality that the machine is going to wait for the consumable to come in, and as a result that there is no productivity, it shows in red color. There was a consumable request and the consumable did not come to the machine, and as a result the machine was waiting. Now the consumable could be part, it could be tool, it could be lubricant, it could be coolant, it could be machine cleaning, it could be anything on the machine which is a consumable. So one can track this, and once you have a waiting time, you can analyze and see how concurrently you can plan this material to be available in the machine so that the machine doesn't wait for the consumable. Now, we can also look at the machine life and condition monitoring in terms of a dashboard kind of a display where it shows all the sensor and oil levels, which is green, yellow, and red, which shows that if you are in the green zone, that you are very safe. So this can be pictorially driven on the dashboard, and this also can be viewed remotely on your mobile or laptop. One can also look at the alarm accountability. If there are any CNC alarms, machine alarms, which is tracked automatically, you can see how much time the machine was down due to alarm and how much time there was no alarm, the machine was not in alarm. The gray shows the machine was not running, and undetermined again continues to be amber color. So similarly, you can also schedule your periodic maintenance here. The entire shop floor, in this case, there were 21 machines. You can schedule an event for every machine, keeping probably an alternate weekend for some kind of a scheduled event, and you can look at dynamically how many events were completed and how many events are pending from the perspective of preventive maintenance. You not only plan, you can also track them with respect to time, that how the performance of these events were, which were scheduled, were as per the plan or not. Now we next come to the health monitoring system, which is a third vertical, wherein we start tracking the mechanical parameters of the machine too with respect to its performance. So this is a very unique feature which we have done, where majority of the IoT devices available in the country and the world are only tracking the electronic part of monitoring, where the mechanical parameters are not so easily monitored. Here we are doing it with respect to its usage. So the first trait is the spindle cartridge, where you can see that with respect to the spindle on and off in duration in minutes, we track the performance of the spindle by setting the total life of the spindle, and we give a pre-warn condition, like if the spindle has a life of 30,000 hours, every 3,000 hours we want to open the spindle and see for its bearing wear out or the cartridge wear out or the spindle behavior. We can set a pre-warn with the total life, and with respect to spindle on and off, the iris tracks this from the CNC, and when you reach 3,000 hours, the machine stops. The maintenance personnel can open the spindle cartridge and look for all the moving elements, the frictional elements, its condition. If there are any wear out, aggressive wear out on it, you can start taking action without waiting for the machine to go into breakdown. One can also look at the ball screw conditions of all the three axes on the machine, like X, Y, and Z axis, wherein we give total life and a pre-warn this thing in distance in kilometer moved by the ball screw with respect to time, which is again is through CNC trigger of feed axis or rapid axis movement commanded by the CNC is tracked on real time. And based on the pre-warn condition, the machine will stop and maintenance personnel can open and look at the condition of the ball screw with respect to its performance. So you can go to as many axes as possible on the machine, as IRIS can track the number of axes based on the machine configuration. Similarly, we can also look at the LM guide rails on the machine for its wear, like ball screw, with respect to distance in kilometer and time. You can see the condition of the LM rails of the machine. One can also look at the hydraulic motor or the induction motor, performance based on duration in minutes with respect to time. It could be coolant motor, it could be lubrication motor, it could be a power pack motor, it could be a chip conveyor motor, depending upon S1 duty, S2 duty, S3 and S4 duty. One can clock the motor actual running, and based on the time completion, we can stop and see the not only the impedance of the motor, but also the actual load and the bearing and so on and so forth. And then we can also track the ATC, the automatic tool changer life of the machining center, like horizontal and vertical machining center, based on the counts with respect to time. If you have a total life set as 300,000 or 400,000 counts, you can set a 10,000 as a pre-warn, and you can open the automatic tool changer and look for the lubrication grease condition. You can look for the cam springs. You can look for cam wear out. A lot of mechanical elements on the ATC conditions to see that whether they are normal or abnormal. Similarly, you can also look at the 3-axis telescopic cover condition of the machine tool with respect to the axis where we track them, distance in kilometer with respect to time. Now, the fourth vertical is the one which brings in digitalization and digital transformation on the shop floor, which is operation management system, which is very dramatically important in terms of achieving Industry 4.0. So the first feature is on-device manual and drawings. Because the system has got large memory, you can store all your instruction manual, all your circuit diagrams, your work instruction, your bill of material, the vendor details, the machine details, the machine configuration, including the inspection and the SQC, SPC sheets can be stored in the form of image. And one can start using this on the machine, which is pertinent to that machine, can be stored on the IRIS. You can start referring to these documents without having to leave the machine spot by running into design office and maintenance office, searching for those documents, which are very difficult to trace back if you have 150, 200 machines, and the time taken to do so on an eventuality of failure is very, very long. So here you can give a search command and start looking for those kind of documents. You can make a clear organization how the mapping has to be done, so that every machine, when you go and start searching the document, you know exact location based on the tree format, what can be designed and developed. So here all the manuals can be stored, everything, all the documents can be stored. So hence it becomes a paperless factory. Number two, you can also look at the 3D part drawing of incoming into the machine and outgoing from the machine with respect to what are all the control parameters, what should be the contour parameters, what should be the inspection parameters, including you can upload whether it is in Unigraphics form, SolidWorks, AutoCAD, whatever is the software you're using, you can upload the image onto this thing. And since it is a touch screen, you can start rotating the object also to see what kind of whether you want to see upside down, you want to see backside of the object. So all this can be done. For some reason, if the machine doesn't have tool nose path, if it doesn't have a tool path, you can use this graphics available on the IRIS, which will show the tool path. You can also do part program editing on this offline. When the machine is running, you can do a part program editing. And you can take a copy of that using USB stick. You can take a copy of that backup. And we have also given a scientific calculator feature on the device, so that some calculation which has to be done by the supervisor while developing the part program can also be used without having to carry any of the peripheral device on with him to do the computation. So this brings the true paperless factory on the shop floor, and very, very efficient in terms of reaching to the right document at the right time by not wasting too much of time. And the fifth vertical is the data analytics, where we work depending upon what should be the requirement in terms of report. So one can bring in those kind of customization with respect to the organizational requirement. Now, next we come to the versatile authentication. There are various levels of authentication. It was the traditional one was the user ID and password. Then came the RFID, and then the biometric. With the current, pandemic situation, touching the object, doing so many social distancing, so on and so forth. We can also institutionalize a face recognition kind of a thing, where it not only checks for the operator to give an interlock to start the machine or not, it can also verify the eye gear, mouth gear, head gear, and the ear gear, whether it is in place with respect to the safety. And one can do the skill matrix mapping of each machine with respect to turning number of machines on the shop floor and the operator. So with this, you can see what kind of, how many operators you have with multi-skill set, and in the eventuality that, if an operator, a critical machine operator is absent due to some emergency, it will automatically pop up to say who is the next operator who should go in for operating that machine without having to check the credentials physically, or to have an understanding with the shop floor supervisor to, there is no human intervention required. You can evolve a skill matrix from this and start automatically upgrading the next operator to run the critical machine, wherein almost no time is lost, because the system can immediately recommend who should be the next person to run that critical machine. When we come to the user management, we have machine operator input output, we have production supervisor, what he should access, and input, maintenance supervisor, what he should access and input. And we also have a management team interface, what kind of report they would require. This can be further increased depending upon the requirement of the customer, where the user admin at the customer shop floor can configure this simply without M2 Next having to intervene on this subject. So next, what we want to say is that any control, any equipment, any application we can work on. Of course, we have worked on metal cutting. We have also worked on metal forming, which is laser cutting, turret punch press, power press, press brake, riveting, welding machine interface. We have also worked on metal finishing like powder coating applications, tracking how much was the efficiency of the plant by doing a signature analysis by measuring the sensors, jig density through the sensor. Here we have done a power press application by working with an impact sensor to see what was the load which was encountered by between the punch and the die of the power press to see whether the component was present or not, as against a mechanical counter which just simply says the number of shots. So like this, we have done IoT, including the metal transfer applications like gantry, UOIT, and AGV. So we simply say that we are brand agnostic. We can work on any equipment, any control, any application, which means that this device is so intelligent that we can start mapping the process and start acquiring the data to achieve Industry 4.0. Some of the typical case studies we can see, improvement in productivity 8.3%, 5.6%, 8.8%, some of the customers from West. And then you can also see the in-house case study, what we have done in BFW, Bangalore and Hosur, with a plant machine shop of 14 machines with captive Japanese and European, which had 0i Fanuc controller, A280 Siemens and M70 Mitsubishi, where we optimized consumable weighting and setup, timing, where the productivity improvement achieved was 11.7% on our own shop floor. This is the BFW shop floor, which you can see in the picture. Now, once we have acquired the data and analyzed, and we found that what would be the output from champion output from the shop floor, achieving that output from that bottleneck machine, and hence as a result from that shop floor, every shift, every hour is going to be very challenging unless one is tracking the performance of that bottleneck equipment and the entire shop floor by very strong discipline. So here, the best way to achieve this is to look at automating the critical machine on the shop floor so that the sustained productivity can be managed and accomplished. So we go in for physical automation. So let us look at what are all things we can do in physical automation. So first is to improve the productivity by maximum utilization of the machine or equipment, to improve the performance by improved quality by the consistency of the process, predictable and consistent output, to achieve better profitability by reduced dependency on skilled manpower, minimize cost of poor quality, improved cost per component, better safety for human and equipment. What are the applications which M2 Next generally deals with is material handling applications like machine tending, material transfers, palletizing, end-of-line operation, sheet metal handling, foundry applications like molten metal pouring, core pattern handling, component extraction, gate cutting and fettling. In welding, MIG-MAG, TIG welding, spot welding, laser welding, metal finishing applications, deburring, chamfering, polishing, thermal spray, painting, powder coating, palletizing. And in assembly automations like torquing, shimming, pressing, child part assembly, testing of assemblies. So let us look at what technology we use. We use a 6-axis industrial robot, 2, 3, 4-axis CNC overhead gantry, collaborative robot where the robot and operator can work together. SCARA robot for high-speed pick and place application like 120 picks per minute, and automated guided vehicle to facilitate movement of material from one machine to another machine, which makes the AGV intelligent and works independently of human intervention. So let us look some of the applications which we have done in physical automation using Iris as a device to transfer the data from the gauging station to machine and machine back to robot. So here if you see there is a gauging station. The gauging station measures the component. Whatever is the offset, the tool offset correction which is required based on the tool wear, based on the gauging measurement, we transfer that data to the Iris. The Iris will change the tool offset in the CNC machine dynamically. So which means that the next component when it goes for machining, the tool offset is automatically taken care. And when there is a robot integrated with the machine, when the robot should work and when the robot should stop can be determined using a biometric input, pre-qualified biometric input, which can be interfaced with the Iris, and the Iris can command the robot controller, asking it start and stop, keeping the safety and the intervention in mind, which is purely an Iris control. So let us look at some of the applications, what exactly we have done. This one is a versatile handling application where you find 8 machine tools with 3 robots, industrial robot. The job weight is 35 kgs, which is a forged component. And there is an automatic gauging station here. You have an input slat conveyor and you have an output palletizing station. The Iris is monitoring not only 8 CNC machines, it is also monitoring the cell. The entry and exit to the cell is done by biometric safety, where it is pre-qualified who should enter and who should not enter. And the entire cell and machine performance can be remotely monitored using Iris capability. So let us look at this cell, what exactly this cell delivers when you automate. So traditionally, the 8 machines, the 35 kg job weight and loading, unloading, fatigue, and ergonomics was a big issue. So with this automation, the robot can pick up the material where a helper is loading the component, input component on the slat conveyor. The robot will pick up and load and unload on these machines. And after the OP10, there is an inspection which happens. There is a cleaning which happens. The component is cleaned by the robot and then it's subjected to inspection. Based on the inspection result, acceptance or rejection of the component is not only monitored, the tool offset, what needs to be corrected on those machines where the component output was there from OP10 is automatically adjusted and then goes in for OP20. This machine does the OP20 operation and then again does the gauging. And then there is a facility for the operator to call any component at a given time to just have a visual inspection. So again, here the subsequent inspection, the tool offset is corrected. Then it goes to drill tap and boring kind of an operation where the third robot takes over. And it is palletized here where the forklift operator can simply come and pick up the material and go. Which means that there were 27 operators running this cell in 3 shifts is now become 6 operators, 6 people, 3 helpers and 3 forklift operator. And the entry and exit is a requirement because the nature of the component which is forged is very hard. So the tool life is very minimal. Every 10 components machine, the tool life is over. So there is a entry and exit of the supervisor to change the tool insert, but you cannot stop the cell during that time. So what happens is, the moment the supervisor enters the cell, the robot will start tending to that machine intelligently. And then the remaining machine will be tended by the robot and it continues to do that, which essentially means that the cell is running and output is being maintained and you are optimizing the entire cell. So since the Iris is monitoring this, you can remotely view what was the performance of the cell, the deployment efficiency of all the object in the cell. Number 3 is the entry and exit of the supervisor into every cell, what time he entered and what time he exited also can be viewed because you have the facility privilege to view it on your mobile or laptop. So some of the benefits, unmanned cell operation, auto tool offset correction, auto gauging, auto palletizing, all machines and robot cells are monitored with individual Iris, seamless data acquisition, optimal OE, minimal idle time, 73% reduction in skilled manpower, safe operation of the equipment and human, cell access only to pre-authorized person, entire cell can be remotely viewed. Now we come to the next example of showing how the robot is communicating with the machine through the Iris, fixture offset to Iris through Ethernet IP. That means the robot is checking the offset of the fixture by doing averaging of the fixture, and it is connected to the iris, where the iris collects this data and does the work coordinate, move coordinates into CNC machine, which corrects the work offset of the CNC machine itself automatically. So let us look at this example. There are two horizontal machining centers, which is machining a heavy casting, where we employ a heavy robot, which is 150 kg payload. And this has three end of arm tool with three grippers at 120 degrees. There is an additional tool rack for special tools apart from the ATC on the machine. And these are long tools which have to be loaded into the machine spindle at an accuracy of 50 micron. So when you do this manually, there is a lot of time which takes because of the nature of the tool, which is very heavy, which weighs up to 30 kgs. It's very difficult for the operator to do it. So he uses a hoist, and loading the tool becomes very difficult. So the robot can do it with a very quick timing, which brings in the loading time by 40% down. And the job setting, the averaging of the fixture offline when the casting is getting machine, which is very long in terms of cycle time, the robot will pick up the probe from the tool magazine and starts doing the averaging of the fixture. The moment the averaging of the fixture is done, the work coordinate, which needs to be adjusted on the machine, because this pallet will go on this machine, it is automatically transmitted to the machine through iris, which is connected to the robot controller, which essentially means that you are not only bringing down the job setting time by 80%, you are bringing ultimate safety to the equipment and human, where there are zero accidents, and hence as a result your expense comes down and your downtime is also completely eliminated. So this is how you can take not only benefit of automation, you can also use IoT device like iris to interface between the automation and the machine tool. Now let us take a quick look at a video which shows cobot automation integration, where iris, machine tool, cobot, operator, right from the raw component which is coming as a bar into the input of the machine and goes out as a component which is finished, you can witness in this video. Just take a close observation of this video. You can see the iris here.
Sir, I can see the video, but the audio is not there, sir.
So next, let us look at 5 machine integration with one robot, which has a long arm of 3 meters and a transmission component from a two-wheeler, which effectively uses side door of the machine, and the front door is available for the operator to view. So here you can see that the robot is having a 3-meter reach with a slat conveyor, input conveyor, where a helper just loads the component. You can see a vertical machining center with a rotary table where there are 2 components loaded and unloaded at a time. And you can also see that 180-degree flipping of the component is achieved here. The cycle time is about 180 seconds. So which has a lot of time for the robot to tend to all the 5 machines with the OP 10, 20, 40, 50 and 70. So wherein you will have only a requirement of a helper to load and unload the component. The input is a slat conveyor and output is a roller. So this is what you can see that the helper has to just put the component and take the component out, and you should have power and raw material to run the cell. So you can see that it's a very efficient way of doing automation. Next we come to the gantry, where the gantry will enable the part to move from the overhead side. And here, since BFW builds the machine, builds the gantry, we use the same CNC system to control the gantry, which is easy for the maintenance person to look at and maintain the equipment with all the user interface available on the CNC MDI. And operator and maintenance person can go around the machine and start utilizing the complete floor space of the machine tool, which is installed on the shop floor. So here what happens is the example shows that the averaging of the fixture is done by the machine using a gantry control, which is transferred to the iris, and then the iris will control the robot to start the deburring of that particular component with the intelligence what it has averaged the fixture using the CNC gantry on the CNC machine. So again, since it is a forged component, the variation could be something like 6 to 8 millimeter for the same component patch. Wherein the robot will find it very difficult to ascertain the starting point. So with the averaging mechanism and transferring of the coordinate, the robot can really start becoming intelligent in looking at that position. So here the deburring is done with a compliance arrangement. We have a consistent product quality as a result and can accommodate large forging deviations with the highest safety standards for the machine and the workforce. So let us take a look at this video. So there's something in extension that is the intelligent robotic deburring, where we apply force control as a parameter to check the pressure and speed change at the end of the arm tool. By bringing in a constant, controlled contact force by changing the path and the speed with respect to adaptive path and constant speed and fixed path and variable speed, which gives you a part damage, potential part damage can be eliminated, increased tool life and inbuilt process quality. This is achieved by putting a force sensor at the end of arm tool, which comes in 3 variants like 15 Newton meter, 60 Newton meter, and 400 Newton meter, depending on the stock to be deburred on the component, the force and the thrust what is required. You can choose that particular sensor on the given robot, which has the capability to sense. And as a result, you can start monitoring the performance of deburring, just like a human hand, wherein the back thrust can be easily sensed, and accordingly your speed and feed can be changed. This is how the intelligent robotic deburring can be achieved going forward. Now let us take a quick look on the automation application of robotic ladling, where a molten aluminum metal is picked from the foundry using a crucible, where the crucible has a thermistor which monitors the temperature of the metal which is being picked up, and it has to pour within the stipulated parameter time. And pouring is in the control process, which is nothing but the extended axis of the robot, which controls the ladle to pour into the gravity die casting machine. And as a result, you can see the porosity comes down substantially. The rejections were brought down by 90%, and the efficiency of the entire cell improved dramatically because there is no human. And which was a very, very tough and a fatigue operation for the operator to do it, which is not recommended. But 24/7, this cell can run as long as the raw material and the power is available. So let us take a look at this video. So next, let us look at the automated guided vehicle, which was designed and developed in-house by M2 Next, which was launched in the year 2020 March. The key elements are from Europe, which is gearbox and servo. Navigation mechanism available is SLAM, inductive RFID type, and optical RFID type. Safety sensors and PLC. We use lead crystal battery for sustained backup and long life. We can do customization like scissor lift, pallet changes, vision-based pickup of the AGV. We have 3 models right now developed: 250 kg, 500 kg, and 1 ton payload. It also has an auto charging capability where the AGV can charge on its own once the threshold of the battery starts going below certain level, wherein it will go to the charging station and starts getting charged. So let us take a quick look at this video, which shows that the AGV can move between machine tool, carrying the raw material and the finished material. The and to the AGV is based on the vision. Unlike others who do it with the kind of a switch, here we have envisaged vision. You can see that the first station has a 3-axis SCARA robot, which has a vision on its top, which can clearly look at the object and then pick up the part, although the position deviation is about 5 to 6 millimeter. So this will enable the AGV to tend the material to a given station, and like this it can start going from station to station carrying material. The raw material, the pre-processed material can go to that station and the finished material can come back. So this can be a local station with a robot which is working with the critical machine, or an operator working on a normal machine. So the AGV can communicate not only with the machine and the robot, it can also be communicate with the operator by pressing an acknowledge button to say that the component was picked up and completed. So without altering the shop floor layout, one can envisage an AGV to bring in material with an interval depending upon the throughput of the shop. And wherever there are critical machines, the robot will handle that particular equipment using vision or using position or whatever is the mechanism which is required, depending on the criticality of the component, what is being carried by the AGV. So here you can see again that there is a camera here where the camera is looking at the component and then will prompt the robot to meet that coordinate and pick up the material from that particular station automatically. So this is how one can employ multiple AGVs in the shop floor if the throughput is within 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 50 seconds, or increase the pallet size by number of raw components so that material movement can be synchronized with respect to the cycle time on the shop floor. The beauty is that tomorrow if the component changes for whatever reason, the jig and the end of arm tool only has to change on the robot, number one. Number two, the shop floor layout need not be changed depending upon what exactly is the current this thing. The AGV can take a 90-degree turn, it can go forward, reverse. It also has an ability with the laser oscillator to be very safe, where the AGV will start and stop automatically when there is an interference. Now, some of the elements which we design and develop: gantry, gripper for gantry, gripper for robots, auto gauging station, stacker conveyor, slat conveyor, vibratory bowl filter, and auto gauging in this PC. We can design and develop this. We can also design and develop the traditional HMI and a GUI kind of an HMI. So that ends the physical automation. Once we have acquired the data and once we have championed the output data by doing physical automation, the process engineering to improve the performance of the existing machine comes into picture, which is nothing but looking at fixture and tooling. So M2 Next supports the customer as total solution provider. We work on total tooled up solution for new and old machines and as well as non-BFW imported machines. We provide complete service to work holding for VMC, HMC, SPM and net, selection of cutting tools to optimize their productivity, cycle time reduction to improve productivity on the existing BFW, non-BFW imported machines. So our responsibility starts from looking at the dimension, geometry, surface, job history and machine details, work out process flow diagram, cycle time estimation, selection and procurement of tools and accessories. Also do design and manufacturing of fixtures, validation of all the above with internal team and customer, forward the complete project to our application team. So we have an advantage because we do everything in-house and we do so, hence as a result, the reduced lead time and the cost is something which is very, very important. So some of the fixture modifications we have done for BS4 to BS6, which is a old 8-year-old BFW machine, where we have done a hydraulically operated fixture, which was commissioned and proved out in 2020. We also did a BS4 to BS6 conversion of crankcase left and right component of scooter and bike, of the #1 two-wheeler company in the country, where the flatness was 50 microns on the pneumatically operated fixture, which was very, very crucial. We designed something like 30 fixtures and delivered it within 4 months in the year 2020. Now, once we have done this, the last part comes is the additive manufacturing. Let us look at what is it. So M2 Next offers complete solution to additive along with subtractive. We are currently working on industrial polymer. We'll come up with metal by the end of year 2020. We have experts at M2 Next ready to work with you to offer solution to overcome your shop floor challenges, adapt additive in all our automation and process engineering needs. So Stratasys signed an agreement this year with M2 Next as technical partner for India market. So let us look at what is the additive manufacturing application on shop floor. Something like jig and fixtures is where they're used. Typically, this is the shop floor where you will see a lot of subtractive manufacturing happening with a lot of logistic movement, tooling, kind of things. So the first thing is the assembly, tooling for the assembly process, aiding workers to align and hold the parts during the assembly. Next is the R&D, where tooling used in the development phases of the product development and manufacturing. Next is the quality control tooling to aid in the inspection and QC process, specialty holding devices or measuring aids. Packaging and logistics tooling designed to allow for movement of parts within a facility or during shipment, health and safety of the operator. And then the equipment parts and tools associated with the equipment used in the fabrication process. So all this activity on the shop floor can be substituted by an industrial polymer, which will give you better ergonomics, quick time to manufacture, and easy design, which can be designed and developed and printed in a single day. So let us look at one example where a jig was made, substituted for the tool guidance. This is a traditional jig which was used using aluminum, which was quite heavy. When we did with plastic, it came down, the weight came down by 80%. And the tool guidance, the operator fatigue was almost eliminated, number one. Number two, the handling of this jig made the efficiency of the operator to become better. Number three, the rejections were completely removed. So as a result, you will find reduced cost manufacturing, AM benefits, lighter durable materials, health and safety, ease of use, and reduced lead time. So some of the applications which one can see on the shop floor using FDM and industrial polymer is check tools for go, no-go gauge, inspection fixtures, kitting trays, alignment fixtures, drill guides, end of arm toolings in robot and gantry, ergonomic aids, safety guard, tool organizers, masking fixtures. So the main advantage is that you can do color coding, it is non-abrasive, it is durable, it is highly customizable to product and operator, lightweight, easily manufacturable, moderate tolerances. So with this, there is plenty of benefit which one can achieve and do away with the traditional style of manufacturing and, with respect to the disadvantages. So at the end of the presentation, why M2 Next? We are the only Indian company which has over 5 decades of expertise in metal cutting, who can offer world-class industrial solution right from data acquisition to analytics to automation to process engineering to additive. So with that, I come to the end of the presentation. Let's boost productivity, performance, profitability. And over to Dr. Bala for question and answers. I would be happy to answer any of the questions which the entire audience have shared. That's the end of the presentation. Thank you for your patient listening.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation, sir. I think it is a mix of all the technology-driven activities, including artificial intelligence. So hopefully the participants might have had a wonderful walkthrough of the Industry 4.0 with a real-time OEM manufacturer experience.
Yeah.
So thanks to you, sir, and thanks to Mr. Satya, sir, for getting you on the stage. So let's go and answer some questions. We have already, we are 15 minutes delay, but even though we will try to answer some 2-3 questions.
Yeah.
Let me give one question. So I think this question is from a student, Brunda. As Industry 4.0, what would be the courses you suggest to students right now to study?
See, it's a very vast subject. So if you are looking from the perspective of, it depends what kind of a engineer you are. If you are a electrical or an electronics engineer, I would say you should look at the sensor technology to see how to upgrade a machine from a traditional performance to an Industry 4.0 performance. What kind of sensors are available to convert the machine? We call it this as a digitization program, where you will convert the machine from traditional machine to an Industry 4.0 if you're an electrical electronics engineer. If you are a computer science engineer or an industrial engineer, I would suggest that if you are a computer science engineer, you should look at how exactly the data management or the data science, you have a data base. How do you start capturing, how do you start making reports on the champion data based on speed, feed, and acceleration, deceleration? So you should work on data management or data science, which says that you have every 75 millisecond a bunch of data coming out from the device. So there has to be certain management of data. Otherwise, the speed and the speed of the bandwidth will be insufficient. So some kind of data management has to be done if you're a computer science person, wherein you will have to understand a little bit of the machine and the process and so on, but primarily data science management. If you are a mechanical engineer, you should start looking at the thermal side, the artificial intelligence on the thermal behavior of the machine, and how do you integrate certain technology to monitor the thermal behavior of the machine, so that you are complying with respect to these the ambient and the inherent temperature on the machine itself, which gives certain yield on the structure of the machine due to steel or due to iron or due to whatever is the metallurgical process. And how do you correlate that with a sensor to bring in those kind of deformation as a data available to the computer person? So depending on your stream, you need to look at what should be your learning on Industry 4.0. And I can tell you that it will not be so subdivisional kind of a thing. It is the adaptability which should come into the student to have a little bit of understanding. So if your basics in the engineering, if you are giving a lot of emphasis, what your professor teaches you, like heat and mass transfer is a boring subject for everybody. Somehow, they want to escape by scoring some 40-50% and then get out of the college. So don't do that. Learn what exactly is heat and mass transfer. And number two is then start looking at the fundamental physics, because structural engineering from the mechanical design is becoming weaker and weaker by the day, because the engineers who come out always depend on tool like AutoCAD, tool like SolidWorks. I will input this and see what you can look at it as a tool, but try to understand the fundamental behavior of metallurgy with respect to the structure. So these kind of things, if one has a focus in the undergraduation and also look at what kind of industry and adaptation which comes, if you start brushing your fundamentals and looking at this, I think it becomes easy. Hope I've answered this question.
Yes, sir. I have one more question from the faculty side, it seems.
Yeah.
With industry, in institutions, automation is possible for paper valuation by robots?
Paper valuation by robot. Yeah, you see, it is already being done today. That if you look at some of the top institutes, like if you see Vellore Institute of Technology, is evaluating the entire paper in a bot process, is what I would say. Because the question paper itself is released in the electronic form and the answer is also done in the electronic form. So there are certain key words and phrases and things which are captured. Based on that, they are already doing it. So it is possible. Only thing is your examination process needs to be remapped to see how to make it bot friendly. So it is possible. You can do it. Sir, your voice is not heard.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Now it is clear.
Fine. My next question is from Mr. Dhanush Raj. Sir, how will this 4.0 be used in agricultural domains?
Yeah. Excellent question. It is already in usage. Majority of you may know, may not know. It's an excellent question, and there is already answer running on it. I have many of my friends who are applying IoT here. See, first thing is the technology in agriculture is watering, which is irrigation, which we call it as drip irrigation with the current technology. So every yield, what is being envisaged on the agriculture farm, like what should be the water content which should go into the plant is determined first. So as a result, your drip irrigation is controlled with respect to the discharge of water with the interval defined from the tank to the entire field. So you will have to apply drip irrigation first in the first place, number one. Number two, the on and off of the motor is programmed using the water content which needs to go into the field, which is neither wasted nor make the plant go dry. Okay, so it's an optimal usage, which is nothing but lean manufacturing in terms of water consumption, number two. Number three is that you also have a visual technology to show that is somebody entering and exiting your shop floor, your irrigation farmland at a alien time like midnight. There are many technologies where it shows that there is an intervention by an animal or someone who is trying to enter and exit. And how does it throw a trigger onto your mobile device to say that there is someone is intervening in your farmland? This is number three. And number four is you can also look at what kind of the growth is happening over a period of time visually. There is no algorithm as of now, but visually you can see. So which means that remotely you also have a possibility of switching on, switching off your pump, and then looking at what kind of this thing is happening. It is already in place. People are doing this. Where they have bought land with respect to their hometown. Suppose you are in Bangalore, 100 kilometers away, they have bought the land, they have put a small electric fence and they are running it. So it is already in place. I would have a very strong recommendation for engineers who have farmland of their parents or grandparents. Don't let it go. You can think of going back there and start looking at how do you put your fundamental technology in place to bring in better output in the farmland, which is nothing but lean manufacturing, and start getting this benefit, and it is relatively easier and gives you a lot of satisfaction in terms of having, run the output from the given land, which could probably not be experienced by any of the farmers in the earlier situation because of high ignorance and, in terms of difficulty in investing, because all this requires small investment, but you always get an output because of that. In fact, organic farming is being done this way. Unable to hear, sir. Audio gone.
No, I just muted and but forgot to unmute back. So.
Yes, sir.
So what do you feel difference between conventional manufacturing and smart manufacturing?
Sir, conventional manufacturing goes with a set of belief that this equipment will only deliver this much based on some kind of a intervened output given by a shop floor supervisor or by a traditional process. The smart manufacturing is a mirror. It will show you 24/7 what is happening on your shop floor. So you will start logically thinking why there is delay or why there is a reduced output or why we cannot optimize this output. So this is like a continuous improvement program where you can start bringing down your inefficiency on the shop floor by reducing those kind of events and increasing the productivity. So this is how you will start looking at the deployed efficiency of those equipments on the shop floor are becoming better and better by the day by logical thinking, no intelligent thinking, logical thinking. So the technology will allow you to think logically. It is like calling, until Uber and Ola, we didn't know where the taxi was. So today we know, we have all the app on our mobile and we see who is going to come faster than the other one. So it is not that you are intelligent, because the dashboard shows one is 5 minutes, one is 7 minutes, and one is 3 minutes. You will naturally choose 3 minutes. And you will start questioning, why does it take 3 minutes? Why can't it be coming in 1 minute? So similarly, IoT will enable you to think, why does the machine wait for 15 minutes for a consumable to come when you have information on your hand? Why from the tool grip to that point, it should only take 1 minute to come, and why he cannot concurrently make an order before the tool runs out of its availability, something like that. So it's a logical thinking which will enable optimal performance.
Next question is, in current trend, is it necessary every factory or manufacturing industry need to have a cyber physical system?
So looking at the current situation, we don't know, because they are saying that Endiran 1, 2, like that, they're saying COVID 1, COVID 2 is all going to come. We don't know what is going to happen. But going forward, we are not very sure what happens in our lives. But it is always better that if you have some kind of a uninterrupted, manufacturing or a no human intervention kind of a manufacturing, it is always better going forward. But it is anybody's guess, if everything becomes normal and again traffic jam starts and everybody wants to have a job and all that, it is fine. But it's a very typical question which remains very difficult to answer. But nothing like, if you have a shop floor with minimum labor intense and then you are able to produce better output, your sustainability in business is going to become better, in the sense that when you have tough situation, you can survive for longer. That's the order of the day. Today, it is not that who is going to win the business, it's how long you can sustain without water and food. So with minimal manpower, if your sustaining ability becomes longer, so that is how, developed economies like Germany and Japan, why they are able to sustain longer is because as against 100 operators, they will have 5 operators. So keeping 5 operators, for 6 months is easier than keeping 100 operators for 10 days. So what happens is you are there in the game and you are waiting for it like a leopard, waiting for the prey. It waits for 3 days, 4 days, that is how it catches. So the longer you wait, the easier for you. So that's the mantra which is going to come ahead, I guess, but I'm not very sure. But it is always better to have, at least if not implemented, be prepared to say that when I get a chance, I should implement.
Okay, sir. So it's another question. And what if the network goes down, sir? Is there any possibility to recover back in a short while?
Use Iris. Use Iris. When the network goes down, the data remains in Iris. When the network comes back, the Iris will push the data. No loss of data. So you need to have a technology to hold it back. That's all. That's it. And going forward, it's going to refine because more and more service providers will come into this subject, because it is more profitable. So the quality also has to improve. But then you should have a technology to overcome such kind of issues. And it is already there in place. Like in Iris, you can see that even if you don't have connectivity for 1 day, the data is sitting in Iris. The moment you connect it, it will start pushing the data from the point where it was lost.
And we'll take up this as the last question. Like, what are the various ways in transforming secured data using IoT in wireless mode?
Okay, this is a little tricky. So what happens is that you need to resort to an encryption technology where whether there is wireless or not, whether there is anything or not. If that is why it is important to see how do you metamorphosize your data before you post it in the cloud. So it's important that if you do edge computing, you only give a data which makes no sense for someone who hacks it. So it's better to compute the data at the edge level and give the output and then encrypt it over and above that encrypted. So as most of you know, that the thief is always running ahead of police, because the thief has to be faster and sharper than the security system. So no matter what kind of encryption you do, there will always be people who will hack it. So it's better to have the data in a finished form so that it is meaningless for someone who hacks it, number one. Number two, you do the encryption so that your edge device is sitting, at an area where it is almost disconnected from, the outside world, something like that. You can freeze the OS, or you can, there are many technologies which are available how to, defunk the OS. So one should resort to that.
Fine, sir. So I have one more question from our side. How the MSMEs will go into investment in automation during this pandemic situation?
Yeah, this is the most frequent and general question which is asked. So one needs to look at from the angle of return on investment. So if your return on investment is not going to cross something like 2 years or 3 years, it's a better bet for you to go in for automation, irrespective of the investment cost. Generally, MSME always looks at the investment cost and not the return on investment, number one. Number two is the fear of whether the market would exist for the next 2 to 3 years is the general phenomenon, the fear what they have. But notwithstanding this, if you really look at the challenges what you have in the industry today, and if you want to automate, there are solutions available with a better return on investment and a better what to say visibility in terms of market which is going to exist. So based on this, you have to do a decision on the project viability. It can be done. It's not a big deal. It can be done. Only thing is the automation going to get, or just the investment, I should ensure it should not be looked from that way. There should be an intention to automate looking at a long-term perspective. So it is possible. One can assess this.
Thank you so much, sir. No, we will come to the conclusion of the session, and I thank Mr. Satya for supporting us to get in Mr. Jagannathan on the stage, and I thank Mr. Jagannath, business head of IoT and automation, M2NXT, a subsidiary of BFW, for the wonderful session, which is a collect of all the available areas in the Industry 4.0. So that's what I can say. It's not only concentrating on one particular topic. It covered, I think, almost all the areas in the Industry 4.0 scenario. Thanks a lot. Hope the audience would have enjoyed and got a very good informative. The small analysis about today's session was the highest number of participants was around 1,257, and participants stayed over 1 hour 15 minutes is 1,112. And now currently we have 769 live. Thanks for making this session as a wonderful and informative and interesting also for the participants. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Satya. Thank you, Dr. Bala.
Thank you, Satya, sir. Bye.